Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Design and Tech Show. And so far, in this show, only I have been talking, and that's not the nature of shows. We have guests and we have other people come in and share their experiences and just share the stage, you know. So, with that spirit, we are very delighted. I am very delighted to bring this new guest to our show, and her name is Grace Ling, and she will be joining us shortly. And then she'll talk about what she like, who she is, what she does, and what is her journey. So how are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I was pretty burnt out last week of too many meetings. So today I kind of took a little break and worked on my portfolio. It's almost up. I've redesigned the whole thing. So it's almost done. So I got a lot of work done. So yeah, it's been pretty good so far.
So without further ado, let's just start. My first question would be, just tell us a little about yourself and just who are you and what do you do?
Hello, everybody. I'm Grace. I'm a UX designer and community builder. Specifically, I'm currently a UX design intern at Electronic Arts for the summer and fall. I'm also founder and design lead of a design community called Design Buddies with over 10,000 designers. And I'm also a computer science and engineering student at Santa Clara University from San Jose, California.
Perfect. So let's just directly jump in, and I just really want to ask you, and I think many people ask you the same question: is that how did your design journey start? Like what was that one time when you realized that this is a career which I really want to pursue? So what was that moment when it just clicked?
Yeah, so I think I'll go back to a little bit about my childhood because that all kind of leads into the moment when it all clicked. So just a brief overview. When I was growing up, I wanted to become an anime artist and a game designer. I wanted to work in entertainment. I love making people laugh. I would never imagine myself studying anything science or engineering or STEM related. I was that kid who always just screamed randomly in class, loved to just make people laugh. And I also ran a lot of cross country and track, and I also did a lot of blogging on the side. So I've always been someone who likes doing something creative, and I wasn't very person really into studying at all. I've always just liked making things. However, when I went into college in undergrad, I was actually a bioengineering major. I studied bioengineering because I want to learn how to biohack myself to run faster because running was a huge part of my life. I had big dreams to run in the Olympics. At the same time, growing up in Silicon Valley in the SF Bay area, I felt like a lot of kids and teachers really encouraged this mindset of success, meaning you have to be a doctor, engineer, or lawyer. So combining those two things, I majored in bioengineering, and I found the hard way that I should never do something just because someone else thinks it's successful and just because it looks good on my resume. And so after working in research labs for a few years, I realized that I was not enjoying any of it. I was always looking forward to going home to draw, to work on my comics, to play games instead of the actual lab work. And so after 2 years, my professor, I was as an undergrad, I was kind of really hard on myself. I didn't let myself quit. But my professor always noticed that I would get excited over games and design and drawing instead of the actual lab work and doing the subculture. So he let me quit, and that was the turning point of my life where I discovered that I don't want to do research anymore. I don't want to do bioengineering or science anymore. And then at the same time, so this was around 2018. I was a junior in college and my undergrad degree. This virtual reality lab opened up at my school, and I realized that I can just hop in and just learn without having to take a class for it. I don't need a class to make me qualified or anything like that. So I just watched a bunch of YouTube tutorials, made some friends. We all just kind of learned virtual reality together. So my past life, I was a game designer and virtual reality. I was doing a lot of 3D modeling and animation. And I learned that I don't need to actually pursue my major. I can find all these resources and communities without having to study study it because I couldn't change my major because I was on scholarship and I would make it really expensive to change my major. And then so for a while I was going to VR. I interned at Intuitive Surgical last summer as a virtual reality robotic surgery game developer intern, combining my interests, like kind of going to undergrad. Actually going to college, I wanted to become a neurosurgeon, so combine my interest in surgery, game design, VR into one job, and I thought it was like the perfect job for me. I really enjoyed my time there. I enjoyed Intuitive Surgical is the company who makes robotic surgery, called Da Vinci. So I made games to train surgeons through surgery, and it was really fun. But I learned that 90% of my job was software engineering and game development. And like I learned that that's not the right field for me. I still enjoyed design more, but then I was still kind of feeling a little lost of where exactly in design I belong. And so in undergrad, so I graduated my undergrad June 2019, and I started grad school right after because I knew I wanted to work somewhere in tech. I just wasn't sure. So I studied computer science engineering because I thought it was that, like everyone, I was under the assumption that everybody who works in tech studies computer science. And I learned I also minored in that in my undergrad as well. So I had some knowledge in that too. And then I learned the hard way that I didn't learn the hard way, but after taking a few classes in computer science, I realized that I don't really enjoy it too much. And around the same time, I found this class online called Students Who Design. It was a digital product design class. Exactly 1 year ago today, in October 2019, I learned product and UX design for the first time. And I realized like this is like really amazing. Like I really enjoyed it, and I never looked forward to it. Like I always enjoyed it a lot because it combines like my early interest in storytelling, visual design, and also my engineering background with problem solving into one career. And so I kind of that's when I knew that I wanted to do that. And it was a rough journey. And I was just like trying to self-teach myself as a full-time grad student, studying something completely different and doing hackathons, reaching out to people, networking, internships, doing freelance work, working with startups, and just trying to find my way into it basically breaking into design without actual degree or certification. And so, yeah, that's how I knew I wanted to do it when I was excited to do the work I was doing every single day.
So, wow, that's quite an impressive journey. Let me first say that. So I have a couple of follow-up questions to this. So in your opinion, what are some of the key skills that aspiring designers should have to be competitive in this industry? So what are those key traits that they should have?
Yes, so design is the big misconception is design is art and design is pushing pixels. So design is all about solving problems. Art is about expressing yourself, and design you're designing for somebody else. And you're not just pushing pixels, you're working with users, you're working with software engineers, working with product managers to design the best product for the user while meeting these business goals. And so not only you have to have good visual skills, you have to have good self-awareness, knowing what you know, knowing what your strengths are, what you want to focus on, knowing what you don't know, and also knowing how to correct that, or how to kind of supplement that. And also being honest and transparent with people you're collaborating with in the workplace. So self-awareness, communication, being able to work with the communication and teamwork, because design, you work so closely with engineers and product managers because you're involved in the whole stage of the product. So it's really important to get these down as well. And just so self-awareness, communication, teamwork, also some visual skills, and some knowledge and also some background knowledge on user research, like research methods, being able to tell when to use qualitative and quantitative data metrics. So, and also knowing a little bit of psychology for the users, and a little bit of business and marketing and copywriting. So I would say a little bit of everything because you're involved in product from end to end. And so, yeah, I mentioned a lot. And so some actionable ways you can do to actually work on these skills is to have, number one is to have a mentor, because oftentimes you don't know what you don't know. And so that's where self-awareness comes in. Self-awareness means you know what you're good at, you know your strengths, and you know your weaknesses, and you acknowledge them. And so having a mentor is number one, and also like having a mentor also helps you know kind of how to navigate your career path, because nowadays there's so much information on the internet. It's super hard to know like what's the correct path, because there's multiple ways to do things. Like some people go to grad school, some people go to boot camp, some people are self-taught. So having a mentor can kind of guide you along like their path to take to get better at design. And as a student, before I got my internship, I did a lot of hackathons and a lot of design challenges. And design challenges, especially if you work in a group, is a great way to build these communication and teamwork skills, because you're working with software engineers, product managers, user researchers to come up with the product. And also you can practice design thinking, picking a problem, taking an idea and problem ideating on it and launching a product. And so these are skills you need to, as a designer, to be successful, to stand out, because that's oftentimes you do this all the time in industry as well. So I said a lot, and I guess to sum it up,
it's all gold basically. That's all gold.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I guess to sum it up, go ahead.
No,
to
sure.
To sum it up, having a mentor, doing projects, working in a team, and design is not all about pushing pixels, not about how things look. It's about how you communicate things and how you work with other people as well.
Right. So you said visual skills, communication, teamwork, and a little of everything related to product.
Yeah, so some knowledge about psychology and business, so you can be able to design for the users while meeting business goals for the company.
Okay. And you mentioned that you are currently an intern at EA. So I'm aware that you cannot talk about the projects that you're working, but I would really like if you talked about your roles, like what do you do in while during your internship? What are some of the responsibilities on your role?
Yeah, so for me, at EA, as a designer at EA, you can work in multiple different organizations or different branches of the company. You can work in game development, you can work in marketing, or you can work in technology. So I work on technology, so I don't work on actual game titles, but I work on everything supporting the games. So I do a lot of website designs, and also do a lot of design systems, and also do a little bit of user research and doing interviews and testing with the users. So my team is called Experience Design, and we're one of the only teams in the tech org, and only design teams in the tech branch. So my team is responsible for over 50 different products, and my team composed of designers, researchers, content strategists, and we collaborate with product managers and software engineers. So I get to, as an intern, I kind of get to work on both player-facing products and also employee-facing products. So I got a lot of experience in design systems, research, and all these projects I got to work on.
It's quite different. And so it's really good that you took the conversation towards design systems, because that is one of the major things I really want to discuss today, because I just think that you recently released a design system of your own. So it would be great that if you just elaborated on what a design system really is and what is the key purpose for it, and just some of the major players in this industry in the design systems.
Yeah, of course. Design systems is a huge part of design. Design system can be summed up as like a common language people use for their product. So design systems oftentimes like a library of different components you have. Not only like components, but also like your style, your branding, your typography, what font you use, what colors you use, and also like how does the drop-down menu look. So basically a common language of the product, how the product looks and feels, shared with designers, engineers, and product managers. So it's like that single source of truth. And design systems are really important when you build products, making sure everything is consistent and making sure everybody knows how to build everything and how everything like works in the system. So that's why design systems is super important. And yeah, so design system is a huge field as well. Some designers can specialize in that, and that's what they do for their whole career, is building these design systems, because it's super important in order to make sure everybody is aligned, but also making sure that product you're building is scalable and making sure that everything makes sense and is easy to be handed up to developers as well. I guess more specifically, the design system also includes like not only like the styles, like the typography and colors and visual components, but it also includes kind of documentation documentation, like what this button does and what kind of states it has, like hover, press. So you can go really, really detailed into these things. And this is really important for developers to so they know how to implement the design itself. So it's important documentation for everybody. Also, product managers can get an understanding of how the overall product works and how if it's all aligned to the business goals and everything as well.
Perfect. So, so what are some of the major design systems out there in our current design industry?
Yeah, so a lot of companies, sometimes they publish design systems. Google Material Design is a huge one. Oftentimes they publish their whole material design library, so both designers and developers can go in and copy and like use, basically they also publish their code base, so they can go in and take some designs and some code from there as well. Apple Human Interface Design Guidelines is another well-known design system. There's some other other companies that publish theirs. I really like Atlassian design system, and so they have all their documentation online. Spotify also has one. Spotify has a nice case study on Figma, how they organize their design system as well. And so I think Uber also has one out there. There are a lot of and Salesforce has one. So some companies, they publish the design system, making it open source, so designers and developers can benefit from them.
Perfect.
So and so you are also a lead of an online Discord community, Design Buddies. So just tell us a little about that community. What is it for, and why did you found it in the first place?
Yeah. So Design Buddies is actually a really large and inclusive design community where anyone interested in design can gather and access our free events, mentorship program, resources, and a really large, really active community from all over the world as well. So like no matter what time zone you are, there's always someone else awake, which is pretty nice. And so I founded Design Buddies for different reasons why. I guess I'll kind of start off with my little journey. So when I founded Design Buddies, when I was kind of pivoting my major to my career focus to design, I've faced a lot of backlash from my professors because I studied bioengineering. They wanted me to pursue that for my career. They told me that I should stay in my own lane, how I'm not qualified to do design, how I'm doing everything wrong with my career. So I did not have any support from any of my professors, and I didn't have any mentors in my life that could really help me out in design that way. So I turned to the internet and joined some design Facebook groups. And then I realized that the ones I was in, I felt like they were pretty elitist. Like when I was posting my first designs, and I was really proud of it, posting my first case study, I got people commenting that I'm a beginner, how I'm not a serious designer because I don't have a design degree, and just basically making me feel like I don't belong there. And so, the best way to complain is to make things. So I founded Design Buddies this April 2020. And also, I also kind of latched onto the two trends of design being a really growing field. Right now, there's a lot of people going to design, and also people want to stay together, stay connected during the virus. So all these four things combined, like me wanting just to make design friends, and also me wanting to make a community that's constructive and people feel like they're not judged, and making it really inclusive, and also tapping on the trends of design in general as booming, and also COVID and people want to stay together. That's how Design Buddies is able to grow. Basically latched onto these four items.
Yeah.
And this community has like grown exponentially. Like I think there are about 9,000 members currently, or 10,000. 10,000. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big number. Okay, great. So I think we have covered all the questions, but I have a few questions of my own, and so the first one would be, and this is a very common question from all of the designers who are just starting out, and that is about work experience. Like I have just started out. Okay, so I don't have any industry experience, but in order to get that industry experience, I need some sort of experience in the first place, and I have to have some case studies on my portfolio. So if I don't have any current industry experience, then how do I bring those case studies there in the first place? Like what should be my go-to place for those for that experience to land an internship?
Yeah, great question. I started with this a lot earlier as well, and I think the way to get experience is to join hackathons, design challenges. Adobe has ones probably every month. Those are pretty fun. And like hackathons, doing events, doing project rounds with people, building case studies. And also, like oftentimes I would see people post like startup opportunities. Generally, startups, if they're a bit younger, they have a very low barrier of entry. So, because they're looking for more designers to help. So, joining startups, hackathons, design challenges, and working on, I recommend startups because oftentimes as a beginner, it's good to work on products from end to end, because oftentimes in a hackathon design challenge, you don't actually ship it. But as an industry and also during interviews, you get asked about like how would you measure success, and after you launch, you're like, what happens after that? So that piece is really, really important to have down as a designer, and you can mostly get that through startups. And actually launching a product from start to finish is a really great experience, like more longer term projects. But if you're really, really new and just want to try it out, I would recommend like shorter term projects like hackathons and design challenges to get these experience, and also volunteer opportunities. Oftentimes, like sometimes I would say like I generally discourage people to do unpaid work, but for your first ever case study, I would say that's okay if you're just doing it just for learning, and just get your first experience. Like volunteer opportunities are a great way as well. You can find all these opportunities in design groups on LinkedIn. Design Buddies has channels for events, so you can find them there as well. And so I kind of said, basically it's doing hackathons, design challenges, startups, and also volunteering opportunities. Volunteering opportunities, you should only, so volunteering opportunities only unpaid work for their first project. Other than that, you deserve to get paid. So just be really careful about those things as well. So these 4 areas.
Perfect. So I would like to end this with with this final question, and is that what is the difference between working as a UX designer in a design mature company as compared to a relatively new design company, because those companies would have different understanding of this profession, and I think that it really affects the responsibilities on the role of a UX designer. Like in a design mature company, I think they have different UX designers for each different stage of this process as compared to a relatively new design company. So what's your take on that?
So at EA, I would say they're medium to mature, at least for my team, because I still work on a lot of different research as well. And I can compare my experience to working at Opal, which is a startup I'm a part-time designer, product designer for them. And so Opal, I was one of their founding designers, close to when they started. And so I'll just compare so at EA, I also have to do a little bit of user research, a little bit of documentation as well. But at a design mature company, let's say Google, with the whole design library published. So how you know a company's design mature is that they have their whole design system published, meaning they have this end-to-end process in line, and they have people specializing in visual design, people specializing in research, people specializing in prototyping. There's also UX engineers, kind of bridging the gap between the designer and the engineer, making proof of concept things. And so definitely a lot more specializations. But in some large companies like Facebook, they have people, they really value people who have a lot of experience, a lot of skills in a lot of different things, versus companies like Apple and Amazon. They look for more specialized knowledge. And sometimes they'll have I know I just said a lot of things, but there's also motion design, there's visual design, there's interaction design. There's so many things in a design mature company that you can specialize in. And at EA, it's medium mature, because I still have to do, I still do a lot of research, and I still do a lot of I had to know some front end knowledge as well, and I'm also involved in the end-to-end process. But as a new designer, it's like if you're just starting out, it's also good to experience all of that as well, because oftentimes you'll be collaborating with researchers, collaborating with engineers, collaborating with motion designers to make something. So it's good to experience it yourself. And so in my experience at Opal is that as on the design team, we have to do all, like designers have to do all the user research, all the design systems, and all the testing. And oftentimes research and testing are for the UX researchers. So we kind of take on the role of UX researchers. We also had to do some content writing. We had to fill in like the text on the screen and stuff. Usually a copywriter, content strategist comes in. And so as a designer from like a less design mature company, I do the user research, taking on the role of UX researcher, and also taking on the role of the copywriter or content strategist as well as how being a designer.
Yeah. So that's super useful, and I'm sure that people watching this would really appreciate the time that you took out. And I think we went a little bit overboard on time, but for good reason. We had an excellent discussion. So thank you, Grace. It was an amazing privilege to have you on the show, and amazing talk.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Okay, so that was Grace Ling, and I think that she shared some very insightful things about the industry, of her journey, of how people starting as designers can really make use of the internet and all those resources out there. I know there are a lot of resources out there, but how to pick the good ones out of the bunch and just work for your career. So I think it was an amazing session. Thank you, Grace, if you're watching this. And it was amazing having you. And to all the people watching, there will be many more. I'll try to have many more of these guest episodes in which we bring people from the industry and we talk about some of the things that we think that would help you more. You can always you can always put more questions in the comments, and I will try to get them answered in the next video. Again, it's already a quite long video, so I'll see you in the next one, and thank you.